Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and of course, all of you that are able to take part in this show, live or not, are our co-hosts. And thank you very much for being here. And thank you, Drew, for coming in with the bangs, pash, boom, boom, boom. So this week the theme of this week is your tabletop role-playing game sucks. Now I get it. It's a bit clickbaity on purpose. I'd like to have people participate, but one of the main themes of at any point in time ever is making lists, opinionated lists, and watching people just lose their minds about those lists. But my subversive goal is to have some kind of communal language, and sometimes we can. Uh, all right, protection agency. Sorry, I'm getting pop-ups here every time I start the show. One of the things that can create lots of animosity, arguments in any community, and especially our gaming community, is not really being on the same page in terms of our understanding. And sometimes that just means having the same definitions or agreeing to definitions and going, oh, I get what you mean. Well, what I mean is this other thing. And so there were some individuals that sent some comments. Last week, I did a whole theme about the OSR and why I think people are gravitating towards it, why I like it for its features and things. And of course, you're going to get pushback on that, which I like, because I said, wait a minute, maybe there are things that we don't have the language to describe, or we aren't using to describe those things. And so I thought this week, we're going to find a feature of tabletop role-playing games, get some descriptors in there, just to get our brains moving. And this isn't a matter of whether you agree or not. You don't have to. Actually, the whole point of the clickbait thing is for you not to agree. But we can be on the same page in terms of our language and then go, yeah, I get what you're saying. Great. I don't agree with that, but I get what you're saying. So today we're going to talk about pillars. And Drew says, be careful with your pillars there. I might come in with a wrecking ball and topple them, right? So what is a pillar? Maybe the word pillar, again, as a descriptor, may not be for you, but a pillar for me is a game design feature that the more of these pillars that are structured in and stable makes your game accessible and better for the individuals that are there. In other words, it's like designing writing a book or a movie, directing a movie, or writing a poem, or any type of artistic endeavor that pleases everybody. That's an impossibility. There are no things that are 100% going to engage everyone equally. And tabletop role-playing games fit into that. And I made my own pillars in terms of features that I think tabletop role-playing games have. Of course, here we have them here on the screen, and there are overlaps. Imagine these pillars as being in circles, and those circles have an overlap in them. And I made 6 of them. I wonder if you think there should be some removed, renamed, added to this list. Now, the rest of this week, we're going to talk about other things. There's a classic one called The 8 Types of Fun that came from video game design, and I thought I'd bring it back around again. It's pretty classic. There are a number of other listing features when it talks about tabletop role-playing games. And mind you, this is very high-minded. This isn't about a specific game. But the reason why I picked the words, your tabletop role-playing game sucks, is because I think all of us, given enough time in the community, either with a game that is a legacy game that we were introduced to and playing, or we find a new game and we are enamored with this game. Oh wow, the artwork, the layout, the community that supports it, the person who designed it, the themes of this game. I love it. And at a certain point, we stop, we sit amongst ourselves, and there's something scratching at the back of our head, and we just say, man, this game, I don't know why. I was really gung-ho about this game. I really wanted to see, I want this game to succeed. And you just go, yeah, this game sucks. And you don't really want to admit it to anyone else. And in some ways, when other people say that game sucks, you maybe find a little defensive, like, well, this is my favorite game. You can't say it sucks. So here are maybe some of those reasons behind it when the person designs the game, and why some games have features, or why some game designers are, there are people critical of game designers because of over or underemphasizing these reasons. So here are the pillars. Those pillars are ease, theme, rewards, speed, resolution, and voids, fruitful voids, which, thank you very much, Drew, for introducing that to me. That design philosophy. So in no particular order, we're going to go through these. So ease. Ease, mind you, these pillars are ephemeral. There are no concrete ways to get to these pillars, but I guarantee you, game designers in many ways think of these, or they put out a game and other people make comments about this. So ease is, how easy is it for me as an outsider who's never seen your game before to utilize your game? How easy is it to learn it? How easy is it to find information? How easy is it for me to introduce it to other individuals? And how easy is it for a group of individuals to first, from first day open book to now we are playing campaigns in it for 5 years? How easy is it? And mind you, there are some games where ease isn't in the cards. A perfect example of this is a well-designed, literally a award-winning game that hasn't gotten the love until someone actually delves into the game, and that is Eclipse Phase. There are versions of this, including my own. Eclipse Phase, free. It's in its second edition already. The layout, the flavor of the game, the look of the game, the philosophical parts of this transhumanist, posthumanist science fiction horror survival game is brilliant. But easy? Ooh, and they've tried to make this game as easy as possible to slip into, like an old pair of comfortable sneakers, jeans, and it's not easy. Um, Mainly because of the thematic components of the game. Uh, I would say Call of Cthulhu, the Lovecraftian horror classic, 7th edition, and so many derivations of it, isn't necessarily an easy game to slip into. Fantasy seems to be the easiest one and the most ubiquitous one. All right, so the second one is theme. When I say theme for a role-playing game, I mean, how much does the flavor, the writing, the layout, the approachability, the resolutions, the dice, the character creation, how much does it fall into the theme of the game? Meaning, like, I one time, we're all armchair world creators and game designers. Let's be honest. And one time, I decided to write down some stats for a horror game, and I don't want to say this bothered me, but I went, why don't why are we resistant to list the very things that are in a horror game? So many of us know the classic 6 stats: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. And I went, why don't we just change those stats into, and let's see if I can pull this out of my ass. I changed the stats to cower, flee, cower, flee. I want to say it was beg, paranoia, uh, oh, rage. It was all these features of being scared. And I said, why wouldn't we have stats related to horror? And those would be our stats, like the most cowardly or fearful or cowering or pleading or whatever stat. The higher your stat is, like if you're somebody who can flee, like you're the fastest person out of there, and you don't even listen to the old standard in horror is you don't need to be the fastest, you just need to be faster than everybody else. And I thought that would be fun. So theme, how much does the game itself fall into the themes it portends itself to be? So getting away from horror, if your game is about superheroics and you're running, jumping, flipping, and you're doing impossible acts, does that game reinforce those acts? If your game is about introspection, it's less about the external but internal. It's about dealing with guilt and unresolved social issues, or atonement, or growth in growth in your life, or coming to terms with terrible things like the death of a loved one, or addictions, or failures, or things like. Does that role-playing game fit into that theme, and does it encompass that theme? Then there are rewards, and when I say rewards, sometimes I do believe some people think of gold or experience points, but rewards are, what about this game mechanically, what features of this game reward me for the behavior it wants to elicit from the players and the game master? Meaning, some games want you to be big damn heroes. So does it reward you for risking your life and engaging in daring do? And a reward could be what we tend to call a Benny, right? Hey, every time I jump off a speeding train, or off a cliff, or in slow motion jump from an exploding bomb or something, do I get a feature, a benefit, a bonus, an extra die, a modifier for doing the crazy wild thing that your average citizen can't do because I'm a big damn hero? Um, Sometimes rewards are very minor, by modifiers, an extra die for the die pool, a something given to me by the game master for engaging in this particular part of the game. Sometimes they are rewards are narrative, meaning like, hey, we defeated the big monster. Now we are given a statue, or a medal, or gold, or reputation, or someone writes a song about my character. Um, uh, Things like that. I'm saving face. Sometimes rewards are like instant, like Benny's. Some rewards are gradual, level progression. My abilities get better. Hey, I used to only be able to knock out 5 soldiers, unnamed minions before, but now I can take out 12. These are rewards, types of rewards. Then there's speed, and speed and ease go hand in hand, not necessarily the same. There are some games that are very easy to slip into. I'd say Blades in the Dark is very easy. It uses D6s, dice, like craps. It uses from 1 to 4 of them, and all resolutions work off of a D6. A 6-sided die doesn't have very many numerical variations in it, in terms of there's only 6 options on one single die, so it's not complicated. It's ease, but it's a thick book. Blades in the Dark is pretty thick, and it has. Sometimes we talk about things as being rules light and rules heavy, but there's a medium ground in there, and I'm not sure exactly. I guess you would call it depth. And there are rules light games that are like 300-page tomes, There's nothing wrong with them. And as a matter of fact, when you start flipping pages, you're like, oh, I get that. Flip another page. Oh, I get that. Flip another page. Oh, I get that thing too. But to memorize it all, maybe it's not the fastest thing. And there are some games that specifically want to slow you down. Yeah, there are games. But then there are other games where, hey, I'm supposed to be a big damn hero, and in my mind I'm thinking I'm doing the classic swinging on the chandelier, but does the game allow that action as fast as I'm thinking it in my head to happen as fast as I'd like it to happen with my friends and family at the table or virtual tabletop or something? So how fast can this game get to its point? And what ways does it do it? How does it control pacing? We hear this a lot in this is a very cyclical in the role playing game sphere of pacing. How do you control pacing? I need to control pacing, and um, yeah, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with. It sounds like um, I'm beating upon the thick tomes, and that's not really it. I love Blades in the Dark, but it has rules for a lot of things that most people don't memorize, and it may mean slowing down just a little bit to get to that point. And sometimes slowing down can be on purpose. There's a game called Aces and Eights that is about um, country western style, going across the founding of the United States, and you've got six shooters and such, and it breaks things down to tenths of a second in terms of drawing your gun and shooting someone. It specifically slows it down to, okay, this third tenth of a second, what do you do or what happens? All right, it's the fifth tenth of a second as the bullet flies through the air. And it breaks it down to even those micro moments. Um, I think speed is very important in a tabletop role playing game, and being aware of the slowdowns, the funnels. Let's say, like through traffic. Sometimes there are uh, here in the United States, they are getting rid of traffic lights, and here's like, for example, here in Columbus, Ohio, they've removed a lot of them to make traffic circles. People hate traffic circles. Absolutely hate a traffic circle. But statistically, traffic circles allow faster flow of traffic, and they're safer. And those two things are documentable, they are statistically proven. And the reason is because of the stresses put on people about traffic circles. People hate traffic circles. And the hate of a traffic circle is exactly why it's faster, simpler, easier to monitor, and safer, because people are confused and distraught entering into and exiting out of traffic circles. Sometimes role playing games are made the same way, and that that heart palpitation of, oh no, now we're engaging in this, in the grappling rules again. I roll, right? Or what are the other three things that people hate? Crafting rules, piloting rules, and hacking rules for like science, going to the science fiction, the crafting rules for like fantasy and things like that. People hate those things, and maybe there's a reason why that speed is not. And the last two are resolution and fruitful voids. Resolution is, how do you resolve a thing in your role playing game that has a question of its success, failure, its randomness, a question of whether this thing will happen or not, right? Um, Improv, actors, actresses getting on stage, being given a theme and improving, making up a character in their heads. Classic television show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? A bunch of comedians and performers given a subject matter and a guardrails, and they're given some subject matter, and then on the fly they come up with improv. There's nothing. The randomness comes from the skill in improv. But at a tabletop role playing game, if I say, "Hey, I want to break down the door," and then the game master just says, "No, you can't." Well, maybe we'd like to figure out some other fair way to decide whether I can break the door down or not, instead of the game master just deciding whether I succeed or fail. Let's go to the dice. Let's go to probabilities. So, what is the resolution of the game? And there are probabilimancers out there who are excellent at disseminating, discovering, analyzing the probabilities of numbers and dice and bell curves and what's some other mathematical things I don't know about that I can throw out there, right? Um, Plenty of those individuals out there in our tabletop role playing community, because these are games that draw people in that are mechanically, mathematically, structurally brilliant. But then there's also something else about resolution that I feel is not highlighted, and it is the gambling, the effects of what happens when people gamble. It is rolling the dice, pulling the arm, playing the card, random chance, the gambler's high, that I think is not looked at as a resolution, that is a real thing that people really feel. And I think feelings, yes, sometimes the thing that we don't like to talk about or even want in our games, feelings are important. And while it bothers many people to roll a classic D20 and then roll another classic D20 and figure out which one is the higher, that there is a probability curve that bothers some people, that maybe there should be a static number that's added to the D20 instead of rolling two of them and getting the higher of the two. But I would argue that the rolling of the dice themselves um, is a resolution in some ways for your whatever game that it is involved in, that may be better than trying to get the percentage numbers to a specific point. And lastly are fruitful voids in terms of game design. And a fruitful void is just, I'm using it in this manner. When does the game get the hell out the way for the people involved in the game to do what they want? So some games specifically don't have a rule for a thing. I remember reading an article about, not reading an article, it was an interview that was written down. Wow, my brain can't decide what a written down verbal interview is. And I just had it in my head. Anyway, I read the words that were spoken by an interviewee and interviewer about the game known as Mothership, and it is a horror science fiction game. And the game does not have rules for stealth. And he goes on to explain that the game designer did not want to have rules for stealth because he wanted the people to slow down and narratively, socially talk about how my characters hide from the evil Lovecraftian horrors that are scampering around a starship. And that they didn't want that act of hiding from horror to be a die roll and to skirt past it. They wanted it to be a thing where it's a discussion, an open back and forth. And some designers know that there's a void in their game about a rule, flavor, themes, genre, whatever. For example, I'll pick on Eclipse Phase, for example. Eclipse Phase, I think, does a brilliant job of introducing people into transhumanism and posthumanism science fiction, giving us a solar system that is well designed, and doing a thing that was coined by the designers over at Absolute Tabletop that said, some some believe, other posits, no, some say, others posit, most believe, where they give you just enough information to make a concrete solar system for you to play in, but it also gets out the way. It also says, well, is that a real thing or not? And there's some people who use canon as a canon. um, canon, the facts, the actual details of a setting, and they use that as a weapon to hit other people. And some role playing games are very good at giving you just enough information for you to play the game, and then just they literally don't give you enough information because the point of it is they're not telling you what it's supposed to be. You are there to design what it's supposed to be. And we will get into to other aspects into your tabletop role-playing game sucks series this week. One of them is 8 types of fun, and as a precursor to that, some people are historians. They are individuals who are fans of Star Wars, and they know every nook and cranny of Star Wars. There are people who are fans of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and the whole Game of Thrones, Westeros, Essos world, and all the characters and their backgrounds and their intricacies and their legacies. And there are some historians out here who are brilliant at uncovering and disseminating and absorbing all of the information about a particular intellectual property. Doctor Who fans, Marvel comic fans, John Wick movie fans, Magic the Gathering player fans, and all that. But then on the opposite end of that are other people who are like, I could care less about how much you know about Lord of the Rings. I'm playing a character in this world with a dungeon or a game master, whoever, who says that all that information you know, all that history has been changed. And we're playing in this altered world that has nothing to do with the tome of knowledge you've acquired about Lord of the Rings and the worlds of Middle Earth and all that. Yeah, great, you know that, but stop it by hitting us over the head with stop using your canon as canon. And so voids in theme and flavor and culture are a thing, as to allow us to create our own, as well as voids in the rules. Hey, this game doesn't really have rules for drowning or swimming or social interactions. Is that on purpose? Or does the game actually suck and they didn't even consider it? Does the game have space for, was the game designed for you to be able to craft magic items? Or does it not exist because this wasn't the game intention involved in it, and you are attempting to do something that goes outside of the thematic elements of the game, and it's up to you as the game master and players, all of you collaboratively, to go, do we really want this in the game? Let me go back to piloting rules, hacking rules, crafting rules, things like that. Sometimes the simulationism of a game is supplanted because of the functionality of a game. So someone responded with because I mentioned about encumbrance. Encumbrance is one of these things that can be divisive as well in tabletop role-playing games. Encumbrance, characters carrying things in a fictional setting. Fantasy, science fiction, modern, whatever. You've got character has a backpack, shoulder pack, pockets, pouches, whatever. Things strapped. The classic two-handed sword back sheath, and whether you can actually draw the sword out or not, all that stuff, right? And what is the carrying capacity, and how does it impact the game? And we've seen so many variations and derivations and iterations of, do you count weight in pounds and kilograms? Do you count size and bulk? Do you have slots for body? Hey, feet, legs, arms, head. Do you have a backpack that has slots in it? You can carry 10 items. How about accessing those slots? Hey, if you can carry 6 things on your body, 10 in your backpack. The 6 things on your body, you can just grab them whenever, willy-nilly. The backpack, no, you need to take an action. Take the backpack off, open it up, grab the thing, pull it out. We've seen usage dice. We've seen quantum equipment. Blades in the Dark does this. Don't even bother writing down the equipment you have. You just choose, are you carrying light, medium, or heavy items? You get, I'm just making this up, I don't know if this is rule. You have 3, 6, or 9 of those items. There's a list of items. When you say, oh, I pull out my lockpick tools, and you say you're only carrying a light items, that's 3. Guess what? Now your lockpicks are only, take a slot, and now you only have 2 slots. Did you say you had lockpicks before we started the game? No. It's quantum equipment. You just pulled it out of your ass and went, no, because my character would have this thing. And we just accept it. Great. Right. Correct. We're not going to stop and have you go shopping. We're just going to say, great, you have lockpick tools. You got 2 more slots to say you have this. Hey, I have poison. Great. That's a 2nd slot. Great. We've seen measurements by how strong your character is or enduring. Well, hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you. By the way, this show is simulcast on my Facebook page, Twitch, and YouTube. So any of those locations, you can find me. I am RPG with DBJ, of Avery and Jackson. If you try to look for me on Facebook, I can spell it out if you'd like to, which I often don't. So yes, thank you very much from on the Twitch side. I really appreciate it. I don't advertise my channel very much. So these are the 6 pillars of tabletop role-playing game design as a language we can discuss in terms of why you may think that one game sucks over another one, and whether that game has been designed with these things in mind, meaning like referring to the void and the speed and themes and rewards of the game. Sometimes a game doesn't have a thing on purpose because it wasn't supposed to be there. Other times a game doesn't have a thing because maybe no one thought about it, or strangely enough, and I know this sounds like I'm being harsh, some game designers have designed games for mature individuals, and the immature, abusive, sociopathic tendencies that some people like to delve into aren't in the game simply because the people who designed the game weren't trying to design it around bad behavior. That they designed the game because the game is about collaboration and about a bunch of people having fun together, not about individualistic adoption of narcissistic tendencies. And so therefore the game probably doesn't have a guardrail because it was never intended to have a guardrail, because they figured people would use silverware to eat meals, not try to murder kill someone else. There are also some games that are designed to elicit emotional reactions, whether it's the gambler's high. Sometimes a game is designed to elicit a fear. Hey, well, good morning there, and thanks for stopping by on this side of the pond as well. Second to last day in the U.S. and then headed back to Germany, I'm going to assume. Headed back across the pond again. Look at you popping back and forth. Some games are yeah. So the trust in the common sense. Yeah. Sometimes, unfortunately, sense isn't common. Or another way of saying it, it's a shame that some people don't have sense, and it's not that common. Yeah. Also, is 300 pages still rules light? Yeah. There's probably a third or fourth thing, whether rules light, rules heavy, and I don't know. I guess it would be rules depth and rule shallow and depth. I guess would be the other 2 of the 4 axes on that. I'm trying to think of another game off the top of my head that's rules light, but GURPS is probably the ultimate master of tens of thousands of pages of written text in GURPS, and it literally runs off of a 3D6 system. That's it, 3D6s. I think you're mistaken. I've been here on this corner. You've traveled the world there, Lace. Yeah, I'm not streaming again. I've continued to stream. You've just been left. I've been in the village. You left the borderlands and went adventuring and gained levels. So I'm still the NPC in the tavern. I'm still the quest giver. Just poke me and I start talking. So sometimes whether we think a game sucks or whether we think it's terrible design, game design or something, I would say to you that the designer probably had these 6 things, these pillars in mind, most likely, and the fact that the game either is lacking something or is eliciting a feeling from you, like going back to feelings, 10 Candles and Dread is a game. Can I reach it here from here? Maybe I could reach. Dread is a game that I've got my Jenga tower up there. I was going to pull it down, but I have to do a whole lot of. I'm in my closet. I can't reach it. Are games that operate on feelings, on purpose, right? It is supposed, Dread, using the tumbling Jenga tower, is supposed to elicit a sense of dread and anticipation and fear and anxiety. 10 Candles is supposed to be a game of loss, literally played with no lights on except for 10 candles lit in front of each person, blowing each candle out to tell this story. And there are many games that exist that are supposed to elicit a feeling that may be uncomfortable because maybe maybe you're a person who doesn't want to have their feelings brought into the gaming sphere. Maybe you don't, you're trying to escape those feelings in your real life, and so you're like, this game sucks, but maybe that was the intention of the game in the first place, and it's not meeting you where you need to be at this very moment. So sometimes a game will pretend to be one thing, but it's really something else. I would put our current iteration of the corporate-owned version of Dungeons and Dragons. That is, it is, what's the term? It's not a zero to hero game. It is a. Someone please tell me the term for this, where you're portraying a person who is the epitome of your imagined self. Holly Lepias is my personal favorite in TTRPGs. You mean favorite? Is the White Wolf system, Vampire the Masquerade, White Wolf, and the like. Oh, yes, yeah. You know what? Out of all those, my favorite is Wraith the Oblivion. I might do a spotlight on that game one day. Wraith the Oblivion, out of all, like, the original Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, all those things, those games, for me, the embrace of the feeling that it's supposed to give you, I think they did a great job in it. And yeah, there's a term for that, where you are playing your ideal self. I can't remember what it is. Drew says the rules are pretty minimalist. Most of the stuff is about how to elicit emotions and getting thematic depth and such things. Exactly. And listen, I'm not against a tome of information, because sometimes when you go through that tome, Shadow Dark's a good example of a tome. While each page layout doesn't have many words, it's not 10 pages long. It's a pretty thick book. I would dare put Knave in that, where it's not Knave by Ben Milton, Questing Beast. It's not a very thick book, but it's dense with information. Yeah, Shice was Wraith is awesome. Yeah, there's some games that are designed where, honestly, I hate to tell you this, but some people just aren't deep enough to play that game, right? Um, yeah, in self-inserting. I know you're trying to figure it out because I'm trying to figure it out. um, it's very common in the TTRPG world, but I just can't remember what it is. And there's a word for like um, um, being a character that doesn't fail and is good at everything, and but you're playing yourself, but your idealized self. Maybe I'm just using that, but there's another term for it. I think it's a little divisive as well. But anyway, so I would thought I'd come up with these 6 pillars. There's others that we're going to talk about later on, such as like the 8 types of fun. Um, Maybe I'll even show you a matter. I might even page down on there. Oh, stop it! Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, there's the Mary Sueism. Yeah, there is Mary Sue. There's the Mary Sueism of character design as well. Like, oh, my character. Um, Character design where there are no negative traits, they're all positive traits, is a thing as well that rubs people the wrong way. We'll get into. Matter of fact, you know what? You know what I'll do? I'll even okay. I'll put a pin in this one. So for I'm going to summarize this up, and I'm even going to show you what I think we're going to talk about tomorrow. Um, so the so as a summary, I believe these are 6 pillars of game design, and whether someone who doesn't have the words is acting and reacting to why they feel a game isn't right for them because of the way the game was designed. So the ease of play. Is it easy to learn this game? Is it easy to play this game? Is it easy to modify this game? Is it easy to stick within the rules of the game? How easy is this game designed and to introduce to other people? Many rules light games are easy to dip your foot in, and often have character sheets that aren't much bigger than um, uh, excuse me, just you know 3x5 or 5x8 cards or whatever. It can fit on a napkin or a post-it note, right? um, one 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 ease and speed of something in a game that I think is under emphasized, that I think is brilliant, is the cipher system. In the cipher system, the game master can design a challenge or an adversary by literally writing down a single digit or double digit number between 1 and 10. That's it. Now, you can add more detail, but I can come up with a vampire lord and their underlings by making the vampire lord an 8 and their underlings 3s. That is the most minimalistic ease of challenge you could ever build into a game, and it's the cipher system. And I think it's undersold in the brilliance of it, because it's a D20 system, and the number you come up with, the vampire lord has an 8, is an 8. The minion vampire spawn minions are 3s. Those are their hit points. And if you want to roll the dice against the difficulty, you multiply that by 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. That means in order for our main heroes to roll their d20 and fight off the minions, self-insertion, another synonym for life. Which after all is nothing but a gas station glory hole. I am not going to click that video. Not here. This is YouTube has specificity there, my friend. Someone's been engaged in something here in the States. Please don't take that back across the pond. Juices, there are plenty of details that my cipher makes more complex. Right. I'm not saying you can't make them more complex. For example, that you are encouraged to make a vampire lord that's an 8 that has these other details and weaknesses and features and things like that. No. It's 8 times 3. 8 times 3 would be 24. You can't roll a 24 in a d20, which means that the characters would have to use advantages or specialties or ciphers or circumstances to defeat, let's say, a vampire lord that's an 8 challenge rating. So, but like I said, it sounds simple, and it is simple. I just made it up. I pulled it out of my ass. I made it up off the top of my head. But there is complexity within the system, and the reason for it is because I didn't make up the vampire lord ahead of time, but I sure did have it prepared in my head quantumly once we got into the game to write it down. And I could have wrote it down on a 3x5 card, and once I wrote it down on a 3x5 card, the rest of the space, I put Vampire Lord 8, and then all the rest of the space is just nothing but fluff, rules, challenges, details, whatever. And I think that's a brilliant game design. Sometimes some people think that having a full page spread of information is necessary. We know this we call this a stat block for a monster. Yeah, good, easy. Vampires suck, right? Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the density of information might be appropriate, but it isn't necessarily easy, and it's not necessarily fast, right? And we also have theme. Like, does the way the game is designed, does it reinforce the themes that you're thinking about? We know today that Dungeons and Dragons pretends to be zero to hero, but there's not a lot of zero involved. It's adventuring on easy, and while I wish it would say it was, because then that would just make things a whole lot easier. Just say what your game is about, and does the game itself reinforce those themes? Call of Cthulhu is a perfect example of it is about Lovecraftian horror, and guess what? Your character has a sanity rating that, like hit points, your sanity is going to be challenged. It reinforces the themes of that game. Is your game about adventurous daring do? If you've ever played Feng Shui or Savage Worlds or Fate, or a lot of these games are designed around you being big damn heroes, and you are the brave, bold, athletic, charismatic characters you're supposed to be, and the rules are built around you being better than basically your average citizen from day one. Even we were talking about Vampire the Masquerade and Mage the Awakening, Werewolf the Apocalypse. You start out as a badass. You start out that way, but you also are challenged. Your challenges are against things in the dark shadows that are even more powerful than you. So you are the darkness and the shadows, but there are things there that even can scare you and make you fearful and such. But you are the shadows, and that's where you dwell. And it does embrace those themes. Some other games, they don't really embrace what it's supposed to be about, and it's unfortunate. On the character sheet for my system, there will be no stats, only narrative information. I'm falling in the same way. I want to show you, like, I changed my thing from gear to assets, but yes, and the thing is that Drew, from all the information that I gather, your system is about depth and theme and delving into emotional depths, and numerical values are probably a distraction. And so thematically, even probably with your layout and your design theory, there's probably a propensity to go, well, if we get rid of the numbers and just have the words listed, they will engender someone to engage in those words rather than in those numbers. Um, Sometimes things are done by accident, right? Like I'm trying to think of a game that came about by a game feature that came about by accident that really brings about the theme of the game, I'll come up with it. Maybe I'll come up with it later on in the. Oh, I know one because I'm coming up with. Nope. Here we go. This is a list of. This is going to be. Maybe we'll do this tomorrow, and this of course is another a point of contention is my 10 types of tabletop RPGs, and it's basically after you design the game, what's the goal of the game? Like what is it supposed to elicit? And sometimes games, I don't know if you guys can read this. Maybe I will do it this way. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Just like Drew's comment here on the character sheet for my system, there will be no stats, only narrative information. Sometimes a game is designed in a way to achieve a goal, and I decided to. I love categorizing things. I am an outline writer, creator, designer, and that's how my mind works when I'm writing things down. So it's my way of eating an elephant. And oops, I didn't even put a bracket on the end of this. And some games have different goals in mind in terms of how they operate. And I wanted to bring this up to Drew, who is someone who I think is similarly minded, not being an outliner, but trying to achieve a design goal. And I listed some down here for various games. And I put down drama in terms of portray or immerse in a role. Some games are designed, it's not about winning or losing. It's not about gaining levels or number accumulation or accolades. Some games meant, I'll bring up, what is the game? Thirsty Sword Lesbians or Masks or Monster of the Week style games are designed around portraying a role. And someone on the channel found the channel and was saying like, hey, I was talking about the OSR. This is back when OSR versus D&D 5e, and was saying this person responded, I'm not into the mechanics, and I'm also not into like the puzzle solving. I'm more into the role playing. And it's sparked me to make this list of like, what is your game's goal? What is the ultimate goal? Some goals are about attrition. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Sun, post-apocalyptic games. Some of these games are about attrition, and it means that it's struggle till you drop. The goal of the game is not for your survival. Some games just, I literally talked about a game the other day called A Single Moment, in which it's a 2-player game that literally starts out with 2 players, 2 samurai facing each other, and you're going to kill each other. And you already know one or both of you are going to die. That's the game. The rest of the game after that first 30 seconds is all the things that lead up to you dying. And mind you, we've already decided you're going to die. All the things that lead up to it, your character's not going to die. We're going to have constant interaction. We're going to have scenes together over and over and over again. We're going to build up our dice pool to go flash. Now we're going to flash back to that first scene. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to run at each other and see who dies. Maybe both of us. And as a game, it reinforces drama. it reinforces sacrifice, it reinforces attrition, and some games are about that. Maybe your game is about growth through discovery. And so all of this, now mind you, you could have sliders, right? Well, this game on a 1 to 10, this game is a 7 in this, a 3 in this, oh, it's a 1 in this other thing, but it's really much a 10. And I feel like some role-playing games might be listed as one thing, and the reason why there's dissonance when we play those games is because really the game is about something else. And for example, you would think Dungeons and Dragons from Wizards of the Coast is about war, that is about to win unfairly or overwhelmingly. But it's also about sport, like win by points or rules, meaning like winning. TTRPG played as a sport might be like the rules are meant to balance everything out and put guardrails on, and you win by those things. So yeah, give me all the drama, at least in game, not so much at the table. funny. So yeah, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but I like those little categories and things, and I like a shared knowledge and shared language so we can all talk about a thing. So anyway, this is just a sneak peek for tomorrow. So in short, to let you guys go, this is about the 6 pillars of game design, and whether your game that you're playing or game you want to play was designed with these things in mind. Whether how easy it is to learn, how easy it is to introduce other people after you've learned it, and how easy it is to find rules, implement the game, and have fun. Theme, does it reinforce the theme that you're playing? If it's a horror game, does it have fear? Is it about superheroism? Does it mean that you have a greater chance of, does it punish you for taking risk, or does it reward you more for taking those risks? If the theme is about drama and emotions, are you rewarded for that? Which comes down to rewards. What kind of rewards does the game have? Maybe the rewards are in-game narrative, like gold or fame, or maybe it's meta, like fate points, moxie, luck, advantage and disadvantage. Maybe those rewards are level progression, greater skills, greater magic items. What kind of rewards? How does the game reward you? And of course, it should fit back in with all these other things. Does it reward the themes that is expected of you? Speed. How fast does this game run? Is it meant to slow down, or is it very fast to get to the point? How fast can you get to the information you need? Hey, none of us remember the grappling rules. How fast can we just get to this information, get through it, and figure out what's going on and get past it? Like I said, these are overlaps. Resolution. How easy is it to get to your resolution? Is it a single roll and done, or is it multiple rolls to get to the point? How much do we modify those rolls? How easy is this resolution? Sure, fantasy D20 games, you roll a D20 and add or subtract a modifier. But what happens after that? Do we then have to roll more dice for damage? How do we modify that? Are we rolling again for saving throws? Are we rolling for a random table for events? How are we modifying those? After the resolution, what happens then? Yes, we roll a die for success or failure, but again, does it modify my character sheet? How much do I have to modify my character sheet? I don't know if any of you remember Level Drain back in the day. Level Drain was a pain in the ass. It really was. It didn't make it easy. It wasn't fast, but it sure as hell reinforced the theme of how dangerous shadows and energy draining monsters were, right? And then Fruitful Voids. How much does the game get out of the way for you to do what you want to do with your friends and family at the gaming table, other gamers? Does the game specifically get out the way, or is there a gap? Is it a fruitful void that says, nope, right here, you make it up and have fun, and everyone loves that part. Does the game have a gap because they expect people to be mature, or does the game have a gap because they didn't think people would engage in it? The first edition of Eclipse Phase does not have starship creation piloting rules in a game that takes place in our solar system. The game didn't need it. And it got dinged for it. There were people who were like, where are the starship rules? The game wasn't about starship combat and starship rules. It didn't need it. It didn't have it. And especially when you are portraying characters in cortical stacks, that makes it easier to just beam your brain information from one habitat to another, and you awaken inside of another biological or mechanical body. It didn't make much sense. Starships were basically thematic elements, not something for you to own and pilot and fight in, but it got dinged. So it had a fruitful void. It didn't need it. It wasn't warranted. It wasn't about the theme of the game, but sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. And so, yeah. So in short, that's it. Thank you very much. Destiny Angel says, what happens when the theme is changed from edition to edition? Yeah, I never considered D&D to be a superhero game, but apparently some evil mages on a far away coast seem to think it should be. Yeah. I completely agree with you. Sometimes maybe we should the designers should be upfront about the design goals and what they expect and what the playstyle's expectation is, because the zero of Zero to Hero has increased from zero, right? You're starting at like 58. you know what I mean? I'm just making that up. I don't know. There's not much zero in it. Worrying about food and water and shelter and rest and death and destruction really isn't part of the game any longer. And they should say so. And it's weird because if you're not going to put it in the game, why bother even writing rules for because in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there's rules for dehydration and starvation. There are rules for it. They're just hideously easy to ignore. If you played it rules as written, it's easy to ignore. Most people just ignore it. Just like carrying capacity, they ignore. There are no rules for exhaustion. There are rules for exhaustion, but what I mean by that is they designed an element in the game that's easy to ignore that very factor, which to me is a waste of space and writing. So why bother having it? I don't know. And it's funny because we as consumers sometimes demand a thing that's not necessarily what the themes are about. I picked with Eclipse Phase. I'll try to pick with something else before we get out of here. Eclipse Phase, the first edition. I think the second edition does have rules for it, but the first edition of Eclipse Phase about transhumanism and post-humanism, science fiction horror, doesn't have starship rules in it. And it didn't need it. It doesn't. That's not what the game is about. But people dinged it for that. And we see often when people get upset, like, my fantasy game doesn't have crafting rules. Probably because it's not what the game is about. It's not about you staying at home making stuff. It's about you being a big damn hero going out into the wilderness to engage in daring danger do. You're supposed to swashbuckles and fight evil to achieve the thing that you're trying to craft at home. It's not about crafting. The reason why it doesn't exist in your game is because you're not supposed to be doing that thing. And sometimes people want to stick the square peg into the round hole, and it unbalances the game because either the designers think the thing is sexy and it'll sell, so they create the thing, or it unbalances it as well. Hacking and piloting ship rules are the same way in role-playing games, right? one person wants to play science fiction and they're like, I want to be the pilot, and the other players just twiddle their thumbs. Now, I understand there are many games, like I think it's there's a Star Trek version of this. Some games try to engage the other players when the one main player I'm gonna find me a buckle to swash. Yeah. um, the idea of one player piloting and everyone twiddling their thumbs is boring. And although there are, the first time someone picks up a gaming book, they're just like, where are the piloting rules in a starship and blah blah blah, because they think it's fun. But then when you implement it, it's like, hacking used to be that way for the cyberpunk style games. They're like, we're going to make hacking just like it is in real life. You're like, no, you don't. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have one player having 50 turns because hacking happens at split second intervals. Yeah, Traveler's a good game, which I don't own, but I've played many times. It has a very simple D6 system as well. I think is it 2D6? Damn it, my brain, I haven't played in such a long time. The no one wants to have the hacker have 50 game turns while everyone else has 2 actions, right? It's the simulationism that ruined what hacking could be, because it's like this micro game that doesn't operate with the same rules, when eventually people were just like, just make a hacking roll, just make it absolutely identical to a combat roll, and with initiative and damage and evasion and armor points or whatever, and just relabel combat as hacking and just change the words, and you're done. And eventually people realize, oh yeah, this makes much more sense. So yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for allowing me to do this. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what I think are the 10 types of let's go back here. What I think are the 10 types of tabletop role playing games, and what I mean by the 10 types, I mean, like, what's the design goal listed for those 10 types of games, right? Is it about attrition? Is it about improv? I would say the OSR in some games, in some Powered by the Apocalypse games, many games with the partial success, the yes, no, if, and, or buts portion of a game is very much improv. Is the game about sacrifice? Can you only progress forward in the game by sacrificing something or staying where you're at? Is it about collaboration or puzzles? And what kind of sliders do you have for that tabletop game? What is the point of the game? Where is it trying to go? So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Most of the authors of cyberpunk genre games have no idea what's actually involved in true hacking. It's literally fantasized. Right. It's like, I have no idea what it takes to wield a sword. That's why it's fantasy. That's why we're imagining it. So yeah, so the idea of we're going to make it like real life. When I hear that from people who are just like, it should be like real life, I'm going, no, you don't want that, because it's more complicated and disrupts those other things. Ease, speed. It's very thematic. But is the resolution going to be easy? Probably not. Yeah, in real life hack, yeah, you're probably not good enough. Yep. Yeah, I'm just an IT guy. Hacking, I know, I get it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here. Stop by 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the channel. And if you found this through my Facebook page and it's not your cup of tea, well, first, I'd be surprised you even got this long, but you can just ignore it, just like everything else. But I would love to have you here. And all of you brilliant people, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And if you are new and you're just lurking in the backgrounds, don't be shy. Just pop a comment in or two, or have a discussion, or drop a comment in later on. I do read them all, even if I can't get to them immediately, and we'll use them. No, Thank you. Yeah. You guys have a great one. And thank you very much for the thanks. Lastly, as I do by sign out, thank you very much for spending your valuable time on the channel. I really appreciate it. I hope in return I can give you change for your tabletop and life experiences. So thank you very much. Have a great day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace and tranquility.